Hey, I'll welcome in. Just wanted to, go live here, talk a little bit about press conference, what we heard, what we've seen, and again, just want to use this as a time to vent if need be. So again, as always, give me a follow on X at Manny underscore 303, IG 303 underscore Manny. Make sure that you if you have any questions and not comfortable with the comments, give us a text 970-614-5771. And again, that's the buff line, so anything you need, just jump on in, shoot us a text, give us some comments here. But again, would love to get some feedback on what you all thought of the press conference. I might some thoughts of my own, but kind of want to see where everybody else is on this right now. But again, it is part of it. Whatever did take place, it is time to move on. But again, at the same time, we can't continue. Some changes, right? There needs to be a learning opportunity. Doesn't sound like that Pat Shermer is on any type of hot seat, and doesn't sound like he has any chance of losing play calling duties, which I know a lot of Colorado Buff fans asked for. Again, I don't know. I know Pat Shermer I know Bronco fans had issues with him. I know as a head coach, he wasn't too good. He had, I think it was 1 or 2 years with the Minnesota Vikings with Case Keenum. So again, it's just kind of however we want to take it. But and again, what I would like to see is, what your guys' takeaways from the press conference was. And again, I'll put these up here. What changes, if any, need to happen for Colorado? Because again, this press conference was, was not what it's not what I was expecting, just to be completely honest. They talked about Coach Shermer. What Prime did say was, he said, we didn't lose the game. We didn't lose the game because of Coach Shermer. Talked about giving up 300 plus yards on defense again, which is true. That did take place. But again, you capitalize off those 3 turnovers. I believe, I believe what happened on Friday was it was over at the first quarter, right? And we got Big Mike on here. Mike says the press conference isn't going to change what happened on Saturday. The only thing will be action moving forward. Absolutely. I agree. We can sit here, and again, those ones that are tough, like Friday night's game. Gosh, that was a tough one to lose. I think we all know that. I think those ones hurt more. We all know what happened, right? The three turnovers in the first 8 minutes, you get 7 points off them. That's not a and again, when there's that many turnovers, that lack of consistency on offense, just and again, they have to gel. And right, we said the loss was a team effort. Yeah, and again, I think it's all good. Yeah, all good, Mike. Friday, my bad. No, you don't even worry about it. I keep calling it Saturday as well. So you're good on that. But yeah, it is the loss was a team effort, right? We can all agree upon that. That was not a good look for the Buffs. And it did seem, I've talked about, the last couple weeks about, and I know it sounds bad, but these first games are tough for anybody. I said it was kind of like a preseason game, and teams, there's a big jump from game 1 to game 2, right? That we see. And again, when you have so much turnovers, Colorado does every single year in the transfer portal. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Huge fan of the transfer portal, but when you do that, that creates some issues, right? You have to have that time in there to gel. You have to be able to, come together as a team. And again, that goes from, Mike's right here saying coaches and everyone. Absolutely, coaches, everyone. The gelling needs to take place here. And again, we kind of wish the games were in reverse order, where Delaware came in week 1 and then Georgia Tech week 2, just to try to see if they could get some things ironed out beforehand before playing a big time opponent. And again, Haynes King, man, that dude is he shredded Colorado. To be completely honest about it. You give up 300 plus yards, you're not going to win very many games when you give up 300 plus yards, right? Rushing in 156 alone and 3 touchdowns to the quarterback, all on the ground. They should have made him one dimensional, and again, anytime that they looked to pass the ball, Colorado was right there in Haynes King's face or making plays. And again, in my opinion, they should have, I guess, what changes, if any, need to happen during the game, and again, as much as I am still frustrated about it, What changes, if any, need to happen for Colorado? Yeah, I mean, I think they should have started stacking 8 in the box there, right? Make force Haynes King to throw the football. I think that would have been, yeah, and absolutely, I agree with this 110%. Definitely need a preseason game in college football. Again, I think that's where you should probably schedule those cupcakes week 1. And again, not saying that's what Delaware is, not at all, but it would have been nice to be able to get those things ironed out, right? All those wrinkles ironed out beforehand. One of the things even last year that we saw is you played a team that had tons of continuity, tons of chemistry together in North Dakota State, where they knew how to play with one another. They're well coached. One of they're juggernaut, right? And FCS. So we look at that, and what my take was that the Colorado they came out with the team that again was building transfer portal, right? The whole team again, same kind of roster flip as well, and you seen the team win off of pure. In my opinion, it was off of pure talent, just making plays, doing what they do, compared to this season again. Like there needs to be that week 1 cupcake that's scheduled, especially in this era of football. These kids, they've been playing against each other since practicing, playing, whatever you want to call it, what would it be, since spring ball at this point. So carries over into the summertime and just continues. So again, it's something does need to happen. So I would be, again, I'm not for scheduling, all non-conference games as cupcake games, but I think that first one absolutely should be. And again, next year Colorado goes to Georgia Tech, so they go to Atlanta. So again, that's not going to be a walk in the park. Yeah, everybody, hey, domestically, what's up, man? He said Livingston will make adjustments, but will Shermer. Man, that's the hope. That is the hope, because again, if you're going to call that game that you called the other day, as a for Caden Salter, you're calling plays like they're for Shadur Sanders, and if that is the case, they need to just play Julian Lewis at that point. But again, this offense, they have to lean in, they have to commit to the way Caden Salter plays. If that is something they cannot do or Shermer cannot do, that answers the question about adjustments. I know, and again, like I said, Bronco fans don't like him. A lot of individuals who have had Shermer in the past as whether head coach, offense coordinator, seem to have some issues with him. But again, we'll see. We'll see what takes place here. My hope is that some adjustments are made. And again, even like we look at this, there was a question asked to Prime. Where was it? If we hit the plays, we would. So basically, like what he said was, all right, peace, Big Mike. Appreciate you joining us, man. Have a good rest of your day. Appreciate the support. But they asked Prime about it. They're asking all these questions, and he says, if we hit the plays, we wouldn't be asking the questions. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You're 110% right, Prime. But you guys didn't. We didn't hit the plays, right? You guys did not hit those plays. So again. We didn't hit those plays. So kind of when he said, then again, sometimes we got to take these things and understand that they are coaches speak, right? He's not, Prime, the kind of guy that he is, and coach and man that he is. He's not going to go out there and just start, saying, throwing everyone under the bus. I'm sure there was conversations that happened. I'm sure these conversations were not pretty behind closed doors. And, there was a lot of blame to go around as well. Again, ultimately he said, it's my fault. We weren't, at the end of the day, it's my fault. So again, taking that, and again, expect nothing less from Coach Prime. Northside says, "Hey, looks like you changed your photo, right? Got rid of the buff logo, but all right, appreciate it, man. Welcome. Haven't seen you for a while, so I hope all things are well, man." It says things are vanilla on both. Northside says things are vanilla on both sides of the ball. Yeah, that's what it seemed. It seemed very vanilla. And again, it is tough, right? Like they enter Big 12 play, which is important, right? Colorado still has everything to play for, but how much of this do you want to show for the rest of the conference, right? Or does it even matter at that point? So again, should have been a cupcake the first game of the season. This was scheduled, I believe, in 2016. So before this whole college football playoff expansion and all these different things, were at play here. So yes, they were vanilla. It looked very vanilla. Sometimes, you kind of wonder during it is maybe they're not grasping it, maybe the team's not grasping it, or do they not want to show as much? Is it still the chemistry needs to be built? And again, we talked about it. I talked about it on last night's show. I went on a rant, it feels like, for about 50 some minutes. But they were talking about what we talked about is they were subbing, at right guard, right? Harden and Zy Chrysler were coming in, and they were just in and out, in and out. And this was even sometimes mid drive. I believe Harden got a false start, and he was removed from the game. Right, here comes Zy Chrysler in. It was tough. It was tough to see. It was tough to as an offensive form. I played offensive line growing up. That continuity needs to be there. That chemistry needs to be built. You can't just keep subbing out offensive linemen. And again, I get the competition's there. No one's solidified it, but at some point, it has to be solidified. These dudes have been in since spring ball. I don't know what else needs to be proven here, but again, the offensive line, that is one of the positions that definitely need to be solidified here within the next week. I would say heading into Houston as well. Let's see. Domestically, is Case Alter and a few new buffs. Yeah, shit the bed first game, but I believe he will get us to the promised land this year. Yeah. Man, I have a hot take here. You guys might not agree. Again, just my hot take. I do think we see Julian Lewis start this week. I don't think he plays the whole game. I do think we're going to see Julian Lewis start, though. So again, you have to, and again, it's not because of Cade, right? It was not all Caden's fault, right? He did make some plays. He missed a couple plays, right? You lose football games not on the last drive, not on the first drive. You lose it with 4 or 5 plays. And, I yesterday show we pinpointed 4 or 5 plays that where Colorado lost the game at. But I do believe if Demistocles, I'm with you, he has so much talent, man. We even seen it in the little bit, right? Like we're, what was it, mid third quarter? You kind of thought here, okay, they have figured some things out. Now we're rolling. We're getting ready to move the ball. We're getting ready to do what Caden Salter does. Let him be him. Let him be himself. And then something happened, right? Like it was just like, wow, now here we are again. We're stuck in the mud. We can't get anything going. It was tough. It was tough to see. But that goes back to Will Rock, like how you said, your question about Livingston will make adjustments, but Will Shermer, again, I don't know. And my hope is that Byron Leftwich is there talking with him, trying to get some better game plan called for Caden Salter, because as we know, Caden Salter is a absolute monster, and he looked rough this weekend. He looked rough on Friday. There was even times, I was, again, I'm a season ticket holder, rewatched the game twice. There was times that, and again, it's hard to judge, but just looking in his eyes, you could tell like overwhelmed, or maybe the moment was too big for him. But there was times where he kind of looked a little bit deer in headlights look. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. If you guys don't think that, absolutely open to all takes and any. Northside says, yeah, he doesn't take accountability for what happens on that team. And I think this is what we're alluding to. Coach Prime here. Prime needs to get his friends off the team. Yeah, that press conference wasn't a good look, as well as the one after the game, right? When talking about the timeouts, one of the things I did pull, so I have my notebook here, but taking notes over it. He says let me see, still defending the bad clock management, right? Starts talking about, well, it was throwing out the end zone. It was incomplete. When did you want me to take a timeout? And it was like, well, after that ridiculous first play call, that was a screen. For some reason, we're going horizontal again. That play made no sense. At that point, just run a halfback. Just run the football at that point. If that's what you want to do and gain a couple yards to make it more manageable, whatever it is. I just do not understand that play call, right? That is the most – this game is just frustrating, right? The more and more we talk about it, the more and more I keep going over it, it's just the more and more frustrated I get with it. But there's still no accountability there. So Northside, I absolutely hear you. I get what you're saying. And again, at the same time, there needs to be I don't know if it's a friend issue or not. I do believe at some point, whether that be this offseason or not, again, maybe Colorado completely turns it around, but I do think Byron Leftwich is there for a reason. And I do believe he, at some point, will take over as offense coordinator within the next couple years. If it's not as soon as this season, you'll see next year at some point they're going to split duties of play calling, or something's going to change a little bit here, because that was a disaster, and the coaching staff lost that game on Friday night. Domestically says 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, but OC called passes. That's not Case Salter, but I'm not going to give up on Yeah, unsure yet. Okay. No, absolutely. And again, we'll see what happens, and again, we don't know how much of the playbook has been grasped by the whole team. There was a point though, and again, it was Jordan Seaton was calling out like the audibles and offensive line protections and all of these things where you're just kind of like, dang man, that dude is awesome. So uh that should be the job of the quarterback though. And again, as great as Jordan Seaton is, the left tackle, one of the most important positions on the field, right? You could call it second or third, or whatever it is you want to call it. But Seaton's back there calling out some audibles, calling out protections, coverages, um, slides, all those kind of things. And Salt was not. So K Salt was not. And again, just from my perspective, it was that was tough. Yep, I do agree. Demysticles again, you make a great point here. Yeah, we ran it well. Yeah, and we talked about yesterday last night 5.8 yards per carry from Michael Welch. I still do not understand why the ball was not ran more. And there was some downs where you're like, just run it, right? There was some drives, run the football here. Design quarterback runs for Caden Salter. They didn't do that, but it felt like they didn't do that. That needs to happen, right? Even just watching, like, shoot, even at this point, do a copycat, right? Copycat what Georgia Tech was doing. Just design runs for Haynes King. That should essentially be what Colorado's offense looks like, right? To an extent, right? They need to have their own wrinkles and twists and all those kind of things on it. But I mean, um, the ball was moving on the ground. There was no, I don't want to call it an excuse, but there was no reason not to run the football at that point, and just continue running it down their throats. And again, just when you run the ball, you're going to get 1 yard here, 2 yard here, 8 yards here, 3 yards, 5 yards, right? That's just how you run the football. So Demysticles G, I think that we will see Colorado run the football this weekend. And again, Delaware gave up over 200 rushing yards to Delaware State. That is and they ended up beating the brakes off of Delaware State. I think it was 35-17, but at one point 28 to like 7 or something. And again, tomorrow we will have our friend Bryson Leslie on our show that covers Delaware, to just go back and forth, talk about Delaware football, the matchup with the Buffs. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. But what he was saying is they're very, very susceptible to the run. Their run defense struggles. They struggle with mobile quarterbacks. So again, it is one of those get right games. And we, kind of all knew that, but we're talking about being 1-1 versus 2-0. And that game was right there for the taking with us. And even the press conference again, I don't know how much of this is coaches speak or how much of this is what they believe. But I chalk it up as, just coaches coming out there and talking to the press and just saying, a couple things here and there and everything's cool. Don't worry about it. But again, I'm sure behind closed door, there's a lot of conversation going on. I think Northside, he elaborated a little bit because I feel like some of the position coaches who are his friends don't take it as serious as others. Ms. Delu and Dancy, because they work hard to get better opportunities. Yeah. And that could be it, right? We look at a bunch of even business models that do that. You end up hiring friends and family, right? And doesn't go well. But this, I think, is a little bit different. You have that NFL experience. And again, this is different, right? This is a different thing that Colorado's trying. This is one of the first coaching staffs built like this, right? The whole prime effect. So, again, I'm not ready throwing the towel after week 1. I do think there's a lot of football. There is a ton of football to be played. Colorado still has everything to play for, but it just depends on what this offense looks like. Like they need to dial it up. They need to get, Caden Salter, tailor this offense for him, because this is the only way Colorado is going to succeed this year, right? Because if you put Julian Lewis in, love him, love his outlook. I love everything he does, but again, you're throwing a true freshman in there. And again, whether that's good or bad, I don't know. Right. I saw some stats about it. Was Bryce Underwood. I can't remember. I saw that all the freshmen that started this past weekend, I think it was like 1 interception thrown and all had pretty big games. Now, again, it was like Michigan playing New Mexico. There was a couple other ones that if I can't remember but it was not big time college football, right? Or like two Power Four teams going at it, or even two equally matched teams. But at the same time, I mean, it's almost like where even with the rookie quarterback in the NFL, you sit them for a year. Do you get that the season to get over the hump? Do you just want to speed that up? But again, it's that fine line, right? You're teetering on it, right? If it's you're teetering on it, right? Like what we play him too early? Do we knock his confidence and ruin him? If we don't play him enough, does he end up hitting the portal, right? And again, Julian Lewis is this is one of the biggest recruits to ever come to Colorado, best quarterback recruit to ever come. Might even be the highest rated. I believe he's the highest rated recruit to ever come to Colorado. I know that there was right running back Darrell Scott, number one running back, did end up going to Colorado, but yeah. So you got to play Julian Lewis though. So oh yeah, Lando. This is a fantastic point, right? Colorado is one of the last programs that should worry. I will not want to be North Carolina, UCF, Alabama, etc. Oh man, they have whew, North Carolina last night got the brakes beat off of them. Part of me, not part of me. One of the questions I want to ask is, where is all the outrage for Bill Belichick? Can you imagine Week 1, Dion's first game, if they would have got beat that badly by TCU, what would that have looked like, right? Like that would have been outrage and fire him and all these things, right? Instead, it's well, he can't do this, he can't do that. And again, it's Bill Belichick, right? Part of us all wonders, right? Those of us who followed the NFL closely is how much of this was Tom Brady, right? Because without Brady, Belichick has not done a lot. So part of this makes you wonder a little bit. North Carolina started hot, but that was it, right? The first drive or whenever it is, they were up 7-0. But what would that look like? What would that have looked like if this was Dion? Even this past weekend, if that was Dion, right? Against Georgia Tech getting blown out like that, that would be a way bigger issue, right? But again, yep, you have Bill Belichick at North Carolina, UCF, right? Yes. We'll see what Frost does there. But they're in a lot of they're 2 or 3 years minimum, I think, from competing. And then Alabama, Kalen DeBoer. Holy cow! The hard part is if he takes you take over after Nick Saban, who's the greatest college football coach of all time, right? Arguably, whomever it is that you think. But you got to take over for that program that, and again, I know that they made the playoff, Saban's last year. I don't think they should have. I thought that should have been Florida State, regardless of the hurt quarterback or not. But you take over, for a team that was, somewhat on the decline as well. Right. So I don't know. I mean, Kalen DeBoer's on the hot seat now. I thought he should have stood at Washington myself. But thank God that that's not where Colorado's at right now. Let me see. We all know we should have one, but I think we good. There was no doubt about our talent. We got boys. Yep. I love Juju, but I think this year case solved. Yeah, absolutely. I think Caden's going to do his thing. And again, I do think they do need to run it. They do need to play Julian Lewis. I guess my concern is that if they can't switch the play calling up, if they can't switch the play calling up, or just essentially, they have to lean in, they have to commit to this offense that suits Caden Salter. If they can't do this, you got to play Julian, because again, this is not the offense designed for Caden Salter. Reminds me of back in the early, I guess before these past 10, 12 years in the NFL, where they would try to make quarterbacks fit into their system versus tailoring the system for the quarterback, right? Because, we've seen that with Michael Vick. They put Michael Vick in a West Coast offense, which is, to this day, I was still kind of like, well, that's really dumb. So they do need to. My hope is that Byron Leftwich gets involved, all hands on deck, and they're ready to roll, and they switch this offense up. And, and again, at Delaware, you may see a little bit more vanilla. I do think we see more deep passing. And again, that might just be because of the athletes or not. Right. That Colorado is just they just have better football players, right? We will see the vertical game this weekend. We will see some big runs. We'll see a lot of good things this weekend. But again, it is Delaware. So let's just, I don't want to, overreaction the other way, after next week. Um, what what did that say to Salter if Juju starts? How would that kill Salter? Yeah, I get it. Yeah, no, I know. And then the thing is, though, you're right. So we did talk about this yesterday on the Pod North side. I don't know if you caught it or not, but it was what do we do? Right? You create a quarterback controversy because Julian Lewis does play this weekend. Julian Lewis is going to have a big game, right? Regardless of plays 4 or 5 drives, 2 or 3 drives, he's going to have a big game because again, it is Delaware, right? He gets in there, he plays well, which I expect him to do. Now you've created a quarterback controversy, right? So there is that side to it as well. It has to be careful. So again, at the same time, Julian should have probably got into the game this weekend, so that would have nipped that in the butt pretty quickly, right? They should have just maybe you get the first 2 drives, Julian gets the next 2, maybe for that first little bit, and then maybe he got a drive here or there in the third. Um, but yeah, I think that's just where we're at though too, right? Like you have 2 quarterbacks here. You have a 5-star quarterback sitting behind Caden Salter who struggled. Maybe it does send a wrong message to Caden. Maybe it doesn't. But again, I think they do have to commit one way or another to what they want to do. Because again, if they run that offense like they ran Friday night, that's Julian Lewis needs to be the starter, and needs to get the majority of the snaps. But if they can lean into it, right, ideally, you should have 2 offenses drawn up for both players, right? Since they do 2 different things, right? So that is my opinion on what they actually should do versus what it looks like they're going to do. So, but yeah, absolutely, I hear you about K-Salt's confidence there for sure. Even with all our mishaps, we lost by 7. If it was last year, we would have been blown out. So let's calm down. Kansas is 1-1, and their fans would rather the team play like us on Friday. So Kansas or Kansas State? I thought Kansas, didn't they win this past weekend? Let me see. I'm pretty sure the Jayhawks won. Are we talking about Kansas State? Let me see. I'm pretty sure Kansas State won though. Or sorry, the Kansas. Yeah, Kansas State's 1-1. And then I believe Kansas won though. So they're 2-0, I believe. Yeah. So K-State for sure. They are 1-1. And they, that loss against Iowa State does not look. Yep, got you, Kansas State. That loss does not look as good as it once did, right? Because you had Iowa State. They struggled this past weekend, if I remember correctly. I was just having a hard time on Saturday focusing on the games. Not struggle. Where did they go? But they have not looked great. Kansas State, they don't look great. It's kind of like Baylor got the brakes beat off of them. The only other team that looked good, was or I guess beside TCU now was Utah, right? And again, you even watched that Utah game, and they were letting Devin Dampier do what he does. Yeah, they almost lost it. Yeah, I saw that. Kansas State is. What sucks is I wish we would get them early. Sorry, I just switched topics on you guys, but yeah, this is just real quick. I'll get to your comment, Domesticallys, but Lando said this, right? They almost lost North Dakota. Yeah, that was shocking. Yeah, what was it? Yeah, 38-35. They don't look great, right? They don't look great outside of 2 teams. Outside of 2 teams, right? You have we had our 2 teams, TCU and Utah. And again, you watch those teams, those whatever it is they do on offense, they design their offense around the quarterback. And again, I think all of us can agree on this. We're going to continue saying this till we're blue in the face. This does need to happen. This does need to change. But yeah, absolutely. I think as of right now, right, overreaction, week 1, week 2, whatever we want to call it, right? Because of week 0. We'll see how this plays out. And part of me wishes we got Kansas State early now, because now we get them at the end of the year, and hopefully they don't have things figured out. And again, it is that's in Manhattan. So I wish we would get them, obviously not this weekend, but the weekend after, and get them when they're stumbling a little bit, right? Because even like Kansas last year, the Jayhawks, they stumbled out of the gates, had a rough go of it, and then turned it around. And then that's when the Buffs caught them, was at the end of the year when they figured some things out and had some time to gel. So what we do see this weekend, what we have seen this weekend or even through week 0 is essentially not what we're going to be seeing at the end of the season from these teams. So again, just something to keep our eye on. Take it with a grain of salt. Let me see. Last year with Shador and Travis, I still was uneasy about our talent when matched up against other teams. Not this year, bro. We outmatched in size, etc. on Friday. That's a good foundation. Yeah, domestically is the first thing I said. Colorado's offense comes out, and I was just sitting there staring at the offense. I was like, "Holy shit!" You right? Like our offensive line is massive. Like they made Georgia Tech's defensive line look tiny, and it was just like you could just see the difference there. Even Jordan Seaton, right? Like that is a man amongst boys. It feels like with him, that dude. My gosh, that what was it? Michael Welch's first run, like picked him up, essentially got him his balance, went down, and still got a piece of another guy. Like, and then you have a tackle pulling across the formation like that. That was gosh, he's impressive in that whole line. And again, the only thing that I would ask of this O line is solidify it, figure out who your guard is. I don't care which one you go with. You have to figure that out ASAP. This, shuffling of offensive linemen, again, it does not ever seems like it doesn't ever work, right? Like I can't think of a time when it has worked. So let's see. Gennaro said our special teams look spectacular. Mata don't miss. Yeah. Oh man, that yeah. I was sitting there yelling like they need to go for it, and then they pin him at the 2, right? The punting. Yeah, the special teams just look fantastic. But pinned him at the 2. That dude was wearing a very large jersey for some crazy reason. Cost him some field position there. Again, Georgia Tech did go down and get a field goal, but right, I'm so excited with that. Mata didn't miss. What was it? Buck is kicking it out the back of the end zone for a touchback. We don't have to worry about the special teams anymore. And then the punting, Graves did a great job there. So I am no complaints there, right? This is probably one of the best our special teams has looked in years. And again, this one of the more overlooked aspects of football, right? Let's see. Northside says I hate Power 4 playing FCS team. Yeah. And G5. Yeah, it is like right. Like even this weekend, like it's not the buzz is not there for sure, right? Like a big game feel kind of thing, because we kind of already know what's happening. We already know what's gonna happen. Right. Colorado opened as 23.5-point favorites. Will they cover or not? I don't know. I'm not a big sports better, but I do like to look at the game lines, and the way they're shifting a little bit gives you a little bit of a kind of a feel on what the game's going to look like. But I do think Colorado. I don't think their offense is figured out. As much as I want to say they're going to hang 70 on them. I predicted the score 38-17 is kind of where I'm at with it, 41-17, just because that offense needs to get ironed out. And again, I don't know what the offense is going to look like this weekend. So, again, if they game plan for Caden Salter gets to play a ton, and they game plan towards his strengths, like Caden Salter is going to have a big game, right? Rushing, throwing, receivers are going to have a big game. The running backs are going to have a big game. But again, what's the plan for this, right? Like, what is their actual plan here? What is the offense going to look like? So yeah, and then the following week we are at right at Houston on a Friday night, I believe it is. I can't wait. I can't wait for next year for CU schedule. Georgia Tech, Northwestern. Yep, is non-conference. This was CU schedule should look like every year. Yeah, I do like it, but again, it does suck though right now, right? Like we can all kind of. You do have some teams, right? Like Texas Tech beat Arkansas Pine Bluff, and they're 1-0 and feeling good about themselves and this and that. That kind of sucks. That does not feel good to be 0-1. But again, it is strength of schedule, right? At the end of the day, Colorado had a winnable game, a game that shouldn't have been close at that point. It probably should have been like 35 to at the most 17. But again, that was not the outcome. Let's see. Let me get this one up. Oh, I think my mouse is up. Okay, here we go. Coach Prime is going to allow Juju to play 2 different play styles. Salter decided not to run with the 3.3 average rushing. I hope both they both get to play a half. Yeah, me too. I think that would be the best way to go about it. And again, I would there is a quarterback competition still going on, right? It feels like it. And again, this just maybe if they were trying to squash that narrative by letting Caden play that first game against Georgia Tech Friday night, maybe that is maybe that is what they're thinking. But again, it did not help because now you have Delaware coming in. Julian Lewis is going to play, and Julian Lewis is going to play well because again, that's just who he is. The playmakers on Colorado. Um, yeah, so I don't know that there a quarterback controversy is going to be started after. Again, I think it's already kind of underway after next week for sure. You're going to see, oh my God, who should start on the road? Can you let the true freshman start on the road against Houston and right all these different things, or do you trust the veteran? Right, that's going to be the storyline that we're going to hear all week. Colorado better cover to boost team morale. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, right, like, what if they go where I think it was Missouri State's the other one and they got beat by USC 73-14, I think. Right, that'd be fantastic if CU did that. Um, Again, I don't know for there yet. They can be there to put points up like that. But again, I don't know if the identity's not there yet, right? And again, if they do decide to run the football a lot, it's kind of hard to score that many points running the ball. But yeah, we'll see. They do need a big game. They do need a huge blowout to happen here. Let me see. Yeah, we lost because of Kings during the game. If we played a cupcake, we would have gotten Kings out with it. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where I'm at. I think a week one game should be scheduled with a cupcake. You got to get those Kings worked out. There has to be some live competition, or even like even play Delaware this week one, right? Still an FBS team, or find another FBS team to play, right? I would strongly avoid North Dakota State again. That was just a well coached, really good team, juggernaut there, right? And just juggernaut, right? The ranks, the FCS ranks, D2, whatever it is they call them now. I get the two confused, but I do agree with that though. Like I think they scheduled a cupcake this past weekend, and now if Georgia Tech was coming into Boulder this weekend, I think we might have seen a little bit different of a game, right? Those hiccups wouldn't have been a big hiccup or costly against Delaware or a week one cupcake as it was against Georgia Tech, who again has one of the best players in college football in Haynes King. So yeah, yep, and I do agree with this. So I get both sides of this. I should say, domestically and north side, you measure your team when you play other Power Four teams as non-conference and potential. Absolutely right. And again, the Buffs, you can use this as a measuring stick at this point, right? See where they're at. And right now, we know that again the defense did give up all those points, right? All those yards rushing over 300. Haynes King 156 yards, three rushing touchdowns. That big one in the fourth quarter, but what I will say about this is that they did enough to win in the first quarter, those first 8 minutes, right? That's enough. The Buffs should have capitalized. Imagine even if they would have got 17-0. And now you're able to just run the football at this point, right? With that 5.8 yards per carry with Michael Welch. And then you had Simeon Price, who had over 6 per carry, right? So, and again, not the same. Not the same. I get right. We want Michael Welch to get the majority of the carries, but I wonder what that would have looked like, right? Versus, and then Haynes King's gonna have to throw the football, right? As much as we've seen, it would have put Georgia Tech in a hole. And again, that I think that again, I think we all know this, right? I don't want to keep continuing this, but the game was lost after those first 3 turnovers, and you only get 7 points. That is when the football game was lost. So just and I want to get to a couple things. So Amarian Miller has not practiced, hamstring injury, and again, maybe it's time to start having a conversation about that, right? About the hamstring, the injuries, right? The best ability is availability. One of my favorite players. I hope it's nothing serious, but honestly, it sounds like we're not going to see him this weekend. And again, why should we? But something needs to happen here. He needs to stay healthy. Whether again, I don't want to say stretching or this and that, strength training, whatever it is, nutrition. Something needs to be figured out here with he is way too talented to not be playing due to injury, and quite frankly, way too young for this to be happening as much as it does. Dallin Hayden, it sounds like practice today, but Prime did say at the PC that he's still a little bit away. Would not expect to see Dallin Hayden this weekend, is what it sounds like. Again, that's just me, what it sounds like to me. So again, I don't think we see Dallin, but again, I'm curious as well what that would look like if Dallin was there this past weekend as well. So that was a big player we were missing at this point. If we, yeah, again, Julian will play this week. Our guy Jack Carlo that we had on a couple weeks ago from SI, Prime shouted him out again and said, "You can ask me any question," right? That was pretty cool. And again, if you missed that one, just go on to the channel, find it. It's with Jack Carlo from Sports Illustrated. So make sure that we do that again. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and anywhere you get your podcasts, we're on. Appreciate though if you guys would watch it through YouTube in the background. Let me see. Ben and Tawfiq Bayer still battling, right? People liked the way Ben played this weekend. I thought the defense looked a little bit different when Tawfiq was in there, right? They had that dog was out there, that physical mentality that he brings. I do honestly think that we should see more Tawfiq Bayard, and that should be the safety they roll with moving forward. But again, Ben didn't play horrible. Ben, was good. What did good getting in there and tackling Haynes King. But again, I like what Tawfiq brings. And then someone asked about Caden. Did you talk to Caden? Sit down and talk to him. Prime said, no, I don't. I don't have to sit there and tell him, dude. Like you should have ran there. You should have ran there. He knows what he did. He knows what mistakes he made. He knows what he has to fix. So, yeah. What's the right word for this? It is coaches speak. I think Prime probably did sit there and talk to him and told him you have to be Caden Salter. I'm sure that Pat Shermer got an earful from Prime. Offensive staff did. They're way too talented to not get them involved. Again, the player that had the most targets on Friday night was Michael Welch. That should never happen with Amari Miller on the team, Draylon Miller on the team, Sincere Brown on the team, Joseph William on the team, Quentin Gibson on the team, right? Should not happen, right? And Hakeem Williams should never happen. Let me see this. Yeah, Northside, I like this one. People talking down on Draylon today. I don't understand. Last year, people were seeing this. Yeah, and again, he should have caught that one on the sideline. But again, Draylon is, this is essentially his first year really starting, getting tons of playing time. So again, those are those things that I would love to see worked out week one against a cupcake. And I know on our side you're opposed to that. But those are the things that I would like to, they could have been worked out. But he should have caught that one. But again, at the end of the day, though, he beat the coverage at the end of the game, right on that last drive, was behind him, and just was overthrown there, right? And Caden puts that on, even somewhat, a little closer to him. That's a touchdown. And my hope would have been to see you 1 for 2 at that point, right? And try to close it out 28-27 at home, right? And again, it would be a whole different story we were talking about. I'm sure there would still be concerns, right? But winning cures all, changes everything, gets rid of all the negative talk. There was a question, I think it was from somebody at the end of the press conference, I can't remember, about Julian playing, and he was just like, Prime did not like it, his response to it. I don't know if anybody can comment in the chat here about what they remember from it. Those of us who watched it, it was, Prime was not happy about that question. It's like, dog, like he's going to play. I already said that, like, essentially stop what you're doing at this point. That, Julian is going to play this weekend, right? And again, whether he starts or not, I have a feeling they are going to start him, whether it, knocks Caden's confidence or not. But I do think Caden, if I don't want to even call it benched, but if Julian gets to start, I would say that that's probably talked about behind closed doors as well. But, with the two of them, right, I would like to see Julian Lewis play more. I do think he starts this week, and I'm going to just roll with that the rest of the week. That is my hot take for this week coming up. So just we'll see what happens. But I mean, I would still, if you have any questions here, what changes, if any, need to happen for Colorado, right? We are all upset, all still hurting, right? I thought, maybe Sunday would go away, maybe for sure yesterday. The more we keep talking about it, the more frustrated I get, and it sounds like the more we are, because again, that was one that we should have won. Let's see. Quentin Joystick Gibson looked lethal on his one target. Man, he was fast. Even when you're live, right? Gennaro, are you do you go to the games? And again, hopefully I'm saying this right. Gennaro, do you go to the games? Were you there this past Friday? But the reason I asked that is because when we watched did little red on the first drive, threw it out to Q. And so the first Colorado drive, right, threw it out to Q, and man, he took off with that thing. He's like, holy cow, like that dude is even, right. We watched him in practice. We have watched him in high school, and it's like we knew he was fast, but man, he is fast. That kid is a burner. So by the end of the season, he's probably going to be one of the starters, right, on offense, at some position at the receiver, whomever it is. But that dude is holy cow, that dude can fly. So yeah. But yeah, just curious, if you were there at the game and if you were able to catch that speed in real time. Demyscles, a good thing about getting punched in the mouth first game is they shouldn't feel any sort of intimidation from any team this season. Yeah, and I think it was either you, Demyscles, or Northside maybe it was a week or so ago when we were doing predictions. You guys were talking about that this may be the best team that we play all season. It might be, it might be. So we'll see. But I mean, Haynes King, he's definitely dark horse Heisman candidate, right? I'm just kind of curious to see what this looks like moving forward. And again, Georgia Tech, I don't hate him, anything like that, right? Like there's no bad blood between that team and Colorado. It is just more of I kind of want to follow them at this point to see how they do the rest of the season, how good they are. And again, use it as a measuring stick a little bit, because that is a very, very good football team, one that has the capability of winning the ACC this year, and one that may even get into the college football playoff. But yeah, I think that you get punched in the mouth. That is, I mean, what is crazy is they came out and punched them in the mouth, right, to start. Those 3 turnovers, they were flying, and then it was just bad play calling. So Demyscles, I guess my question too for you would be did they get punched in the mouth, or did the defense just wear down because of the bad or even discouragement because of the offense couldn't do anything with it at that point? So just kind of curious what your take is. I know they gave up over 300 rushing yards, but how much of that is just the defense wearing down because they were on the field a ton and creating opportunity after opportunity after opportunity? So 3 of them, and how much of that was the defense just wearing down at that point, right? Like, again, Colorado's still not in game shape either, right? For the first week, again, it takes 2 or 3 weeks to get your legs underneath you, right? We see it in the NFL all the time, and as well in college, right? Northside says, see you need better coaching. We need young minds in that room. Man, I am careful with what I say. Love Coach Prime. I don't want him to go anywhere. I love Rob Livingston. Yeah, love Rob Livingston. Pat Shermer. Again, he did good last year, but again, how much of that was Shador? Right now that it kind of has you thinking, right? Because even last year there were times when play calls would happen, and you were just kind of like, why is this being called? What is the point of this, right? There was no flow to it, to the play calling. There was no consistency to it at points. And, right, everybody's like, well, Colorado starts slow. How much of that was play calling, though, right? Because those first few, right, the first drive or 2 scripted. So you go off a script, and how much of that was Shador making plays after that once, right, you're off script. So just curious to see moving forward. So yeah, I guess as of right now, I'm not a big Pat Shermer fan. We'll see what happens, right? This week again, their Buffs are going to look great this weekend, playing a very, very, an inferior opponent. But next week against Houston, right? That's when the season starts, right? They get Houston first Big 12 opener for them, and they go to Houston, right? It's going to be hot, it's going to be humid, right? This time of year for sure, and in Houston. So let's see. No, I'm definitely going to see the Buffs once they travel to Texas. How loud was the CU Stadium? Yeah, I'm gonna upload. My wife had a bunch of sounds from the game on my phone. Even too, if you want to, Gennaro, again, check out my ex. Go to at Manny_303. We posted some lives from the game as well. But that place was rocking. Holy cow, that was one of the loudest I've ever heard. Folsom. That place was loud. Big game feel to it. Heck, that parking lot was full, even getting in there. We got there, so kickoff was at 6. We got there about 3:30. And I even had to push back the show. No, we got there 4:15-ish. I had to push back the show because of the traffic was so bad. getting into Boulder, getting into the parking lots. It was packed to where they were even having on campus that having to park on the side, like the side of the street, where there's still the lane. It was packed. It was holy cow, that was one of the biggest Colorado football environments I've been in. I was there when they won the Pac-12 South in 2016 against Utah. We rushed the field, which was a moment I'll never forget. We're walking down the stairs, to get to Folsom with this through the student section, and I think I was one of the first ones to jump over at that point, or maybe there's a couple. And I remember my older brother came with my wife and I, and he said, I guess my fiance at the time, and we jumped over. Right on the thing, and he goes, "Do birthday catches, like we're gonna run." So gave him a juke move that was still, 10 years ago when I was a lot more agile, if I ever was. But yeah, but it was compared to that, right? Winning the Pac-12 South, storming the field. This was still louder. This was still more people, and just a crazy environment. It was so loud. That was one of the loudest I've ever seen Folsom. One of the most hyped up, amped up I've ever seen that stadium. Yeah, it was cool. It was awesome. So, and then in Texas, so that would be because right they go Houston and then TCU as well. Is that I want to say that's their only Texas trips this year. So there's those two. I think. Let me just double check. I'm trying to think of what. Let me see schedule. And I knew it by heart as well. Let me see. Wyoming, BYU, Iowa State, TCU. Yeah, TCU. And then I think it's just those two, right? TCU and yeah, Houston. Hopefully you can make it out to one of those. I'm trying to talk my wife into letting us go to the TCU game. I want to go out to Fort Worth and check that out. So I'm pretty yeah, I like Fort Worth. We've been through it once, that Dallas Fort Worth area. Again, I know people are like, well, they're different. Don't call us Dallas Fort Worth. But there was a really good barbecue place out there. I think it was in Fort Worth called Angelo's. But it was, man, it was so good. Yeah, it was fantastic. And that was back in 2016. So maybe it's good luck if we do go because the Buffs won the Pac-12 South at that point. So, but again, that place was awesome. I don't know if you've ever eaten there, but that place was like some good brisket. They had great brisket, actually. The whole barbecue, all of it was fantastic. The baked potato was loaded and smoked. It was fantastic. So that's kind of my hope, is that we can make it out to Fort Worth. Northside, honestly, every coordinator brings their own guys to coach and runs the schemes. It's very hard to expect guys you don't know how to run your schemes. Yeah, right. And again, I think too is what we do have to start asking is, what is Coach Prime's scheme? What does he like to do? Right? We don't know yet. We don't know yet, right? That identity has not been developed yet, right? Because if we go off of what we've seen these last couple years, is they like to throw the football every play. But again, right, from someone else on the outside, you look at that and that is not the case, right? And the reason I say that is they couldn't run the football. So part of it is how much of this is Coach Prime's, how much of this is Coach Prime, like, right? Like, where is the identity? And again, he some point maybe need, and again, I'm sure it happened, but at some point go over there and tell him, run the football. We got to get moving. We got to get rolling here at this point. Like, stop doing this, or call some more plays for Caden, call some quarterback designs. I don't care what you do, but we got to get rolling here. So I do think we kind of don't know what the offensive philosophy is under Coach Prime, right? He says run the football. He says these things, but again, we don't know yet. And again, I don't think that's wrong to say. Again, it's no knock against Coach, against Prime, but we don't know what the philosophy is. We don't know what the identity is yet. So kind of curious to see where this goes this year. This is, I think this year is going to tell us a lot about that as well. Yeah, and again, it is very hard to expect guys you don't know to run your schemes. And again, like we talked, we don't know what that is yet. So, and then Northside, you posted again. Look at Tony White, FSU defensive coordinator, when he took D-line, QB, safety. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I absolutely, yeah. Florida State, holy cow, they look like a whole different team. They do a weird thing every couple years where they just tail off. I mean, not to that extent last year, but where they just have a rough season and then they're back in form. But Holy cow, they dominated. Florida State, they dominated the trenches against Alabama. And again, like we talked about, though, I think some Demicles asked at Georgia, or sorry, Alabama, Kalen DeBoer. Oof, man, that's a hot seat. That thing is burning at this point. I don't even know if he could sit down right now all the way. Um, did you see the O line tell Prime to run the ball? No, I didn't. I didn't. Man, yeah, at the game live, we're not on the CU side. We're in the south. What is that? Southwest end zone. Kind of up a little bit on the side. Um, yeah, I did not see that. It's hard to catch those things during the game. And again, I was just fast forwarding in between plays to try to pull as much as I could from it. Trying to read formations, those kind of things. And again, they ran just so you know, they ran tons of 11 personnel, which is nothing new, but it was a lot of 11 personnel. And again, CU runs tons of zone inside, zone outside, not a ton of power plays, which again is kind of where they did their best this past weekend, was running some power plays, B and C gaps. So just something to look forward to moving, throughout the season. Yes, this is awesome. Correction, Colorado's coming to Texas on 3 occasions. Houston, TCU in the Big 12 championship game. Man, I hope so. The Big 12, those things are so hard to predict, those champions. These the Power 4 conferences, because again, they don't play everybody. We don't know what's going to happen. Even the tiebreakers break. And again, part of me was just, you get rid of, right, there's that long month in between. What is it? It's early November, mid-November, the last game of the season, all the way. Well, I guess it's after Thanksgiving, but there's like a month in between games there, right? Like that, you'd have to wait till a bowl game. What I would love to see here is you get rid of the conference championship and you create a 14 playoff within the conference, and you go from there, right? During that 4-week span, wherever it is, man, that would create so much engagement. The upper seed or whatever it is, however they figured out, gets home field, and then Big 12 championship is played, or whatever it is, conference championship game is played at the neutral site, wherever it is supposed to be held. I think that would be, man, that would be so cool. You do that and set it up that way and see what happens. Because again, there's something does have to give here, because this is determining a conference champion is really difficult right now with these 16 team leagues, or however many it may be in the Big 12 at 16, because they don't play each other. So again, I would love to see that happen. But again, I don't know how far away we are from that. Those conference championship games, they are going to start meaning less and less. I even read that, what was it, last year with SMU? Remember, they were like, well, I remember people were saying like they should just forfeit the game. They seriously only have something to lose. And again, they lost the game to Clemson. And, we were sitting there. I was sitting there thinking to myself, man, they just cost themselves a chance to go play in the college football playoff. And, they cost themselves seeding for sure, right? They win that game. They get a first round bye, right? Instead of Boise State. So it is something I think that needs to take place or get figured out. Let me see. It's in the highlights. Prime said back to them. I know. Okay, I'm gonna go figure that out. You know what quarter that is? Northside. If you could update me on that, I need to go watch that, because that is. I don't know why they would tell coach. I mean, part of me is how much involvement, right, is Prime having with the offensive and the play calling. And again, maybe that's a change that we'll see that he's not going to talk about, but football needs to be ran, right? You let Caden do his thing, run, and then you do play action and let him show off that big arm, right? Or whatever it is, right? You RPOs, all these different things that they have so many options right now, what to do with Caden Salter. Because again, he has a cannon, but they cannot, Colorado's own play calling forced him to be a passer, right? There was still a couple plays he should have ran. He does know that, but at the same time, like, it should be more encouraged. Use your legs, Caden Salter. Use your legs. This is who you are. This is what got you this far. And then I like that 14 playoff in conference. Yeah, me too. It just doesn't feel right. The excitement for a conference championship last year was gone. Like, I was just kind of like, well, this sucks, right? Even the Arizona State, Iowa State game, I knew that game was going to be bad. But again, like you even think, right? You put Colorado and BYU in there, and however it lays out, right? And now everyone's like, well, Colorado got killed by BYU. There's a month off, and that game is meaningless, right? At that point, it's hard to get up for something like that. So what would have happened? I don't know. Let's say Colorado lines up against Iowa State. They beat Iowa State last year. They would have beat. Sorry, they would have beaten Iowa State last year. In my opinion, they were just, Colorado has athletes everywhere. They are fast and quick. Last year's team, so I think whatever it may have been, you probably would have had Arizona State and BYU. And again, I don't know what happens with Arizona State and Colorado, right? If that is the championship game, right? Anything could happen. So I'm not sure what would have took place there, but it would have been cool to see. So, and then even getting one of those, I guess it would be a conference playoff game, home playoff game with Folsom in early December. Man, that would be awesome. Like I can't even think of how loud Folsom would be and how much that would bring to the right to the community there and to the state of Colorado. So yeah, we'll see what that happens. I think something does got to give though. These conference championship games are pointless. Pointless in my opinion for the team that's going in there. That is the higher ranked team, right? They're playing for nothing. Yeah, Iowa State don't have a good defense. They play, yeah. I don't know how I feel about what's his name, Rocco Beck. I really don't. I think it's one of those things like, is he good or is he not? Is he a game manager? Like I don't know how to feel about him. In big games, I'm not ever, and again, I don't watch crazy amounts of Iowa State football. So I don't know what he looks like in big games, but I don't think they win a lot of them. I do struggle with that. I do think CU beats them this year. They, I think someone commented on one of the videos when I was going through the prediction. I think it was either Domesticles or Northside that said they are way more athletic. Colorado is, or faster than them. Maybe it was in Kansas State, but Colorado looked fast. Colorado looked big and fast. The other night, right, Friday night, they looked big and fast. And again, Jaheim Otis needs to play. I get trying to prove a point, yada, 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 all those things. But at the same time, he's your best defensive lineman. That dude was getting a push all night, got in there, knocking, guards and centers back, just creating havoc on the defensive line, right? So he does need to get more playing time. I'm a big fan of Jaheim Otis. And again, like I've said, is prove your point proved. And again, Jaheim Otis, maybe he's one of those guys that struggles in practice, right? And just needs to be out there. And again, this is not Georgia or Alabama or, one of the high profile programs in the country, right? LSU or whomever it is. He shows up in big games. Or he shows up in the games. And again, that's okay. And again, maybe if this were a high profile, your Alabamas, your LSUs, your Georgias, right? All those schools, right? Ohio States, Michigans, right? Those schools, USC even, right? They had Bear Alexander last year and the last couple years, and he didn't practice hard. He was lazy, and they still started him every game, right? And again, I get that piece, right? I get that completely, but this is not that program. Colorado is still building, so he needs to play more. Yeah, absolutely. Northside. Otis is a gamer, not a great practice player. I mean, again, those happen all the time, right? We have seen that. Those of us who played sports, we've seen individuals not practice, but lights come on and it's game time, man. So I would love to see Jaheim Otis play more. He needs to play more. That dude wrecks havoc. He is a game changer on that defensive line. So point prove, whatever it may be, let's just get rolling. So and let him play. Domestically, G says, to be honest, I'm not worried about this game. If we do this against Delaware, Wyoming, and look like K-State against a Dakota team, that we have it. Yeah, absolutely. And again, I don't expect that this weekend. I expect Colorado to run the ball down their throats. I expect Caden Salter to play. I still think it's going to be like 70-30. Caden Salter plays 60-40, depending on if a blowout takes place. Then we'll see more Julian. But I do think you'll see Julian Lewis start. I do think you'll see, and then they're going to kind of maybe get a possession here or two for a little bit, and then blowout starts to take place, or Caden Salter starts to get moving, and they start doing what they need to do for Caden Salter. But I do think Caden Salter has the potential to have a monster game this weekend as well. And again, that's if the play calling is catered to him versus making him try to be Shador Sanders or Julian Lewis, which he is not, right? The thing that separates the two is Caden Salter's legs. They need to let him use it. They need to call quarterback powers. They need to call quarterback draws, whatever it may be. Call running plays for your quarterback, right? And there needs to be a ton more RPOs. Correct me if I'm wrong. It does not feel like there was from what I watched. It looked like we were calling a game for. Sorry, it looked like they were calling a game for Shador out there again, and he is not Shador. This dude can move. This dude can run. This dude can use his leg. He's an athletic, as athletic as they come. They need to let Caden Salter be Caden Salter. So yeah, we'll see what that looks like moving this weekend. I am curious to see what they do on defense though, because I do want to see if Jaheim Otis comes out with the first team because he was one of the. There were some bright stars. I love Martavius French this weekend. I thought he had a good game. Welcome, a good welcome. Recovered the first 2 fumbles. Dude is moving, but again, they are. You do see though with him and Reggie Hughes, there's a speed element there that they're going to have to adjust to, right? Haynes King, even the running backs, right? On some of these plays, some of these plays were. Some of these plays, I guess you're right, that they had called, the linemen filled, ate up blockers, and then you had your linebackers not filling holes or gaps, I should say. Get caught in the wash. So again, all around, this has to be better. This has to be better. This Colorado team is extremely talented, too talented to have 3 turnovers in the first quarter that equal 7 points. So we'll see what they do. My hope is that you get Byron Leftwich more involved in the game planning and more involved in the play calling. And again, if this is another week where this offense looks stuck in the mud, I would not expect to see that this weekend. But you're going to look at some play calling issues, and you're going to look at someone else going to be calling the plays, right? All right, yeah, Demiscles, have a good one. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Look for us tomorrow live 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We have our friend Bryce Leslie on from Delaware to go over Delaware football, which is cool. So we'll talk all things Delaware. But we'll see what they do this week, and I'm excited for. Obviously excited for it. I think a blowout's in the making here. But at the same time, I don't want to focus too much on the score. I want to focus more on I guess what the team's offensive strategy looks like, if that makes sense. So we'll see what happens. And again, update on Amari, and I think we talked about it. Did not practice today. Doesn't sound like we're going to see him. Hamstring injury. I don't know when the next time we will see those hamstring injuries nag all season. So my hope would be to get him healthy over these next couple weeks. Even if it takes this weekend, next weekend against Houston, and then Wyoming, and have him ready to go. I think it's BYU after that. Have him ready to go against BYU because he's going to be needed there. So, but yeah, as always, make sure you guys follow me on X, Manny_303, IG at 303_Manny. I do appreciate each and every one of you guys joining us on the show. And then let me just get to this. Yes, more jet sweep with Q. They need to take a lot of Georgia State. I don't know why I keep calling that Georgia Tech's playbook and start using that a little bit too. It's a copycat, right? They always say in the NFL, copycat league, copycat. Yeah, it is all copycat. And yes, absolutely get tight end involved. Zach Atkins looked good on the few receptions he had. Let me see. Yep, number 77, the franchise. Yep. Seat does vocal leader. Yep. I did see at one point though and maybe I'll have to find it, but he was yelling. It seemed like he was talking to Caden Salter, and him and K Salt were going back and forth. But yeah, I think whatever it is, if he needs to call the audibles, let Seat call him. I agree. Dude is so good. He's so good. So we'll see what this weekend's going to be it'll be they should blow him out, right? But we'll see. I'm just more interested in the play calling that happens. So, but again, like always, check us out tomorrow night. We'll be live 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Again, Bryce Leslie will be on. One of our good friends at Delaware. Really nice, really cool dude, really nice guy. And we'll talk with him tomorrow. And as always, oh man, I'm trying. Do you think Seton took a shot at Pat? You're talking about the post-game press conference, I would assume. That would be my guess because I did see something. I don't remember word for word what he said. Um, it I remember though thinking when I seen it, I was like, "Oh, yeah, he might have said something to Pat Shermer or who is this directed at? Somebody, right?" It felt like it was directed at. Um, I mean, after that play calling that Pat Shermer had the other night, um, I've held my tongue for a little bit, but yeah, maybe he did. Maybe it was needed. That was inexcusable, right? To not get any of the playmakers involved. There's no point for that. I struggled with it. I'm sure like the rest of Buffs Nation struggled with it. Um, yeah, that was tough. That was tough to see. So, I mean, if he did, I kind of hope he did. So, to be quite honest with you, right? Um, so yeah, I'll go look that up a little bit more. But I do know what you're talking about. I did think then, I was like, whatever. Emotions are just riding high right now after a tough loss, right? After a really tough loss that was there for the taking for the Buffs. Yeah, so again, tomorrow live, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Love to see you guys there. Bring some questions with you. Shoot me a text here. We got a buff line set up. Again, that's 970-614-5771. Absolutely hit me up on the line there. I, love responding with fans. I'll bring it on to the show. I would love to start doing, the end of the show to just have more of a questions, those kind of things that brought up at the last segment. Um, would love nothing more than that. So we will see you guys tomorrow live here. And again, this will be live if you missed it or missed bits and pieces of it. Check us out after we log off here. But as always, do appreciate you guys. Without you guys, we have there is no show. There is no show without you guys. Each and every single one of you that joined, I really do appreciate you. And continue, if you have any other friends, anything like this, shout them out. And then one of the things too that I believe here in the next month we'll get, I don't even think 2-3 weeks, we'll do live call-in shows where we can get you on the show. We can go back and forth and start talking, having, dialogue. So, and again, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. If you don't catch us the rest of the week, if you're at the game, you see me in the fam walking by, say what's up. And again, as always, Skull Buffs, baby. Have a great rest of your day. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. Thanks again.